Welcome to the Gemini Brain, where logic meets intuition and curiosity sparks transformation. I'm your host, Allison, and this is a space for the overthinkers, the curious, and the ones that question everything. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of the Gemini Brain with Allison Wright. This podcast is really about curious conversations, about life, about spirituality, business, relationship, and just like everything and anything in between. I really felt called to creating the Gemini brain because I am a Gemini. And I would say my brain is constantly thinking, constantly wondering, asking questions. I am very, very curious. And with that curiosity comes this interest in many different things. So I really kind of wanted to have no walls, do not be boxed into what I want to talk about and who I want to have on as a guest, because I just want to be able to express all of the quirks and I just want to bring you into my brain a little bit, just a little bit. Are you ready? Are you ready to join and have fun and maybe, hold on to your seats, maybe be a little bit scared? Maybe you'll be like, what the heck, Allison? How are you functioning? And I don't know how I'm functioning. So I welcome you to this new journey, to this new phase. My previous podcast experience started 5 years ago, and it was a joint podcast with my very good friend, Mandy Morton, and we had these two newbies started off and then was down the spiritual journey and was like, oh, we want to have this platform where we could share our grounded conversations, just two moms, two women that worked corporate and was all about the woo and all about spirituality and what we were discovering. And we just wanted to create this platform, but we were so new with it that it was just kind of like green out the gates. And but we built this amazing podcast and had this amazing connection and energy between the two of us. So this is different for me. This is different to be talking to myself, basically. Yes, I am talking to you, the listeners, but I don't have anybody to banter with, and I have no idea how that is going to turn out. It scares me a little bit, but I am just following my intuition that I still am needing to podcast and record in a manner. So even though the Soul Star podcast was put to rest and it's closed its doors, it's served its purpose, and we are so happy that we were able to cultivate that, and we both knew that this was the ending to an era, but I was like, I can't stop, and so here I am. I'm doing this. I'm here. I'm showing up, and I have no idea where it's going to go. And I love that. I think this episode really, I want to just introduce myself, tell you a little bit about my story on how I got to where I am right now, and really let's just start with the name. The Gemini Brain. So this name actually came, Mandy actually had come up with it when we had our heart to heart and realized that the Soul Star podcast was, complete and ready to be done. I was just kind of explaining that I knew I needed to do this podcast, but I'm I because I was kind of like in my head, like, do I just continue the Soul Star podcast? Because it's, had a beautiful following and an audience, and I loved that and the connections. But there was just this deep knowing that it felt too boxed in or constrained. This is the fun part. My word, I like to make up words, and now I don't have anybody to call me out on it. So you get to call me out on it. So I apologize. But I just was like, I have this desire to just talk about everything and anything. And so I was explaining to her that I, I get a lot of interests and passions. And I can get very kind of like focused in on something or something really like light me up, and I just want to talk about it. And what I was feeling like with the Soul Star podcast was, because it was a podcast about spirituality, about kind of that awakening. It always kind of felt like, or at least at the end, it felt like, okay, I want to talk about this, but it doesn't necessarily fit into what this podcast is about. And so even though spirituality is going to be weaved, no doubt, throughout all of this new podcast, in the sense of like, because that's my journey, and I will go into that, what my journey has looked like, but that it's who I am now. I just don't want it to be all that I talk about. And so I kind of said to Mandy, I was like, like my Gemini brain, it's just like, it's always thinking, like thinking, always being like curious. I'm curious about everything, like so many things. I can't watch a movie without having my phone and being like, like Googling history or anything like that. Like and I'm so curious. So Mandy kind of sat there and she's like, what about the Gemini brain? And I instantly, it was a hell yes within my body. With intuition, it's sometimes hard to trust, like, is my intuition, like, or am I just making this up? And one thing with trusting your intuition is, it's like, you will physically feel it. You will feel it in your body. It will feel like a hell yes. And if you're not feeling that hell yes, then it's a pause. Maybe it's a no. It's not quite there. And so I viscerally was like, oh my God, that's totally it. And in true fashion, as a Gemini sun, as a Libra rising, there's like duality to everything. And I took that away, and I started to then be like, I'm going to look at the other side of it and be like, oh, am I boxing myself in by calling it the Gemini brain? What if people think only Geminis, this is only for Geminis, and only Geminis will resonate with this? And, I went down that path and started to kind of look at different names, but my gut, my intuition kept bringing me back. And so this is where I am birthing this new podcast, this new name. And I am just like, I'm so excited. Like, I'm really excited to see where this goes. My journey into, and I'm going to talk about kind of, like what brought me to where I am right now. Because 6 years ago, if you had told me I would have been a co-host on a podcast, I would have been like, yeah, right. What drugs are you taking? But let alone saying I'm going to run my own podcast, like, I would have been like, you're not a good intuitive, and move on, because that would just petrify me. So, kind of moving back to kind of, maybe even like 6 years ago. But just my journey on this spiritual awakening and how it's like transformed my life. So I have always been curious. Duh, I'm a Gemini. But I've always been curious about the stars, about astrology, about psychics. I've gone to psychics my whole life. It was always something I believed in, I was curious about, and but I never, ever thought that it's something that I could do or would do. I really thought that you were born with this like crazy special gift, and only certain special people could access this. Um, and that has completely changed my viewpoint through this journey. But I kind of, my whole life, I feel like I know I've had experiences that cannot be explained, from, seeing spirits when I was younger, to, um, experiencing my son who started to see spirits. And I really I could see how these paving stones were laid out now, that I'm like, I was constantly being readjusted and moved to go on to this path. And it really kind of started, like, I would say, uh 2019 was kind of like this kind of push of going into it, where I had an incident in my house where a tenant had taken their own life. And a year prior to that, a tenant had attempted to take their own life. And it just shook me to my core. And I had my trusted psychic come into the house, because I was like, this place needs to be cleansed. I don't even know what that means. I don't know what it is, but I just knew that this needed to happen. And this was really like this starting precipice point that made me start to be like, I need to learn about this. So when this psychic came in to cleanse my house, she told me kind of about this energy, this darker energy, that I needed to claim the house. And what came out that had really surprised me was she had talked about my son seeing like a great grandfather, and explained that, this monster that he would say, he was like 3 years old, this monster that was in his room didn't scare him. It was just a fact, was actually a spirit, a past loved one. And I was kind of like, what? Like, okay. And, through this time, like, obviously we needed to move. I was not going to stay in the house. So when we were like packing up and stuff, these things, it just, these instances, these things started happening. My son was more and more and more talking about these monsters, that he would call it. Sometimes there was some fear, sometimes most of the time there was no fear. And I remember one morning, waking up, because he was up and about, but he's not allowed to leave his room until I came to get him. And but I had noticed that the bathroom door across the hall from his bedroom was closed. Doesn't sound like a big deal, right? But nobody would close it unless we were using it. And so I said, "Oh, why is the bathroom door closed?" And the fear in his eyes, and he kind of like peered over to look across the hall, and he's like, and he whispers, "'Cause a monster is there." And I remember being like, okay, like, as your mother, I need to step up, and I'm going to 100% believe him. Like, I was never ever going to be like, oh, it's nothing. I'm like, he is experiencing this fear, and I'm going to honor that and be here for him. And I remember thinking in my head, okay, put your big girl panties on, because you're going to open that door. And I was like, I had this feeling that I wanted to say, I like, in my head, I was just like, you know what? If you're going to scare my child, I want to see you. And so I kind of had this, but I was actually really scared. I didn't really want to see. And I opened the door, and he was kind of like peering and like bracing, and I didn't see anything. And I know I didn't see anything because I was coming at it from fear, and that I wasn't ready to, but I knew that he had seen something. And I really just kind of laid it out like, you know what? We're going to ask the spirit to go, and, we're in control of this. So when this started happening more and more and more, I realized like I needed to I need to understand what was going on. I needed to be there to support my son through this. So this kind of like catapulted me into understanding this more. And then 2020 hit, and I think for everybody that was changing. There was lots of shifts and changes because of 2020. What an amazing gift that we were all given. I know probably people don't look at it that way as a gift, but I truly do look at it as this was a gift because it transformed me. It led me on this path. It created this space for me to walk down this spiritual awakening path. And I wouldn't be doing this today if that hadn't happened. So really 2020 came and Mandy and I had reconnected. We had been colleagues at work, interested in, this type of stuff off and on, but we had reconnected and she had really kind of like nosedived into her spiritual awakening and started to talk to me about it. And I was just like all in, like I don't want to stop talking about it. And that really, led me down this path of the rabbit hole. I wanted to know everything and anything. I read every single, like I used to read the fiction, the love books. And all of a sudden, all I'm reading is, things on spirituality. Journey of Souls by Michael Newton. Like, ugh, that was pivotal for me. So if anybody is kind of like on their spiritual journey or whatever, if you haven't read Journey of Souls, like get it. It's Michael Newton is the author. And it was like this switch went off in my brain. I was like, this is it. This is exactly it. I grew up going to church. My family, we went to church, most Sundays, and I absolutely knew that there was something outside of us, but the how it was relayed in church just didn't fully resonate with me. I had questions. I couldn't understand it. And when I read the book Journey of Souls, it just was like this again, like when I say like your intuition is a full body yes, it was a full body yes. I just 100% was like, this is right. The religion wasn't a full body yes. I could feel there was some truth in it, but it wasn't a full body yes. And this book, just it landed. And I'm like, holy crap. And I just wanted to know more and more. And during that journey, I realized that I can develop my intuition, that I am an intuitive, that everybody has the gift of intuition. Everybody can tap into it. And there's nobody that's, it has a superpower beyond anything else. Is everybody meant to? Not necessarily, but we all came with the ability to tap into this. And so I went down that journey and I started training and learning and, went through many dark night of the souls and death and rebirths where questioning my way of thinking, my, letting go of limiting beliefs or outdated belief systems or belief systems that I just took on from, family or society that I was like, wait a minute, I don't resonate with this. And, it was hard and beautiful and exciting and horrible and all of the things in between. Because I definitely was not, when you are re-identifying with yourself or really trying to learn who you are at a soul level, that comes with, the ups and the downs, that comes with gut-wrenching realizations, that comes with making changes that are so scary. And, but then it also follows with this lightness, this feeling of wholeness in a way. And I wouldn't have traded it for anything. So, through this journey, I went from not believing in myself, like really not believing in myself, questioning myself and not feeling confident within who I was. I took all these courses and, in a way, proved to myself I was intuitive, but I was just so scared of what other people would think. And I really kind of like hid from it. And this slow journey, like Mandy and I ended up coming together, and she was really this trailblazer for me. She was really this human guide on this side to take my hand and be like, you are doing this. So it didn't matter how scared I was. It was like, we are doing this, you are doing this. And I am so grateful to her for that. Because my gosh, I certainly fought and kicked along the way at times, trying to play it small. And, but it was like, I'm just so grateful that she was so courageous, and I admire her ability to just like say fuck it and jump in with 2 feet. And it really just brought me out of this shell and put me on this journey of healing to really reclaim my power and reclaim who I am at a soul level. Have I reached that precipice of like, oh my God, I'm there, like, I'm totally aligned? Absolutely not. I am still deep into this journey of learning about myself, of healing. This is a lifelong journey of healing. I don't think we ever stop healing. I don't think I'd ever want to stop healing, because you're constantly evolving and shifting and changing. And I don't want to be stagnant. I want to grow. And it's exciting to see how that happens. If I reflect on the last 5, 6 years, yeah, my life looks completely different. I am completely different. I experience things completely different. Sometimes it's overwhelming. And sometimes it's, just so beautiful, and I'm grateful for that. My life over the last, I guess 5 years now, I lost a marriage. So I ended a marriage. I went out on my own and, put trust into myself, and, started this business with Mandy. We had started this podcast. We had started this business. I took that leap of faith of realizing that I needed to put me first. I needed to choose myself and move on from this marriage. And this leap of like buying my own place on my own and trusting that I could provide and do this. Like, there was so many steps along the way that I was petrified. But then I'm like so proud, just so proud. Even just with the business of, doing intuitive readings, I really was a journey of trusting what I was receiving, of having the courage to share what I was receiving. And that started with, readings, that started with social media, like showing up, having a video, like all of the things, like, oh my God, having, friends and family see me doing this. Like, there was so many layers of self-doubt, fear, all of that I've had to break through and work through to really get myself to this point. And I am now here starting this new chapter with this new solo podcast. I, have started my own business. Mandy and I, through this journey, like we're always going to honor each other's paths. And, it came to a point where, this collective, this dual business and podcast it had reached the end of its life. It was done. It served its purpose, and that was closing up, but I knew that I needed to continue. So, now I have my own business that I teach others how to connect to their own intuition. how to hear it and receive it and feel it and trust it, and really to help hold others on this path of healing and rediscovering themselves, and really walking the path that I walked, to really like step into our highest version of ourselves. And so that's brought me here. That's brought me here. I have this business. It's called The Luminant Soul. You can find that, I'm on social media under The Luminant Soul. I obviously have a website, all of that, and really I do intuitive readings, and they're really soul deep readings. I go into the Akashic records. I read your chakras. I pull from, whether it's past loved ones or your spirit guide or your higher self. I do healings that online. Or I haven't done the in-person. No, I've done the in-person, but I don't have that as an option. And the healings are very much Reiki infused, galactic energy, this quantum energy. Like it's pretty amazing. And I love that. And then the other aspect is I teach. So I teach others to do what I do. I teach others to, connect to their spirit guide, to understand energy and frequency and how it affects us and how to use it moving forward. And how to read that energy, how to implement this into our lives to help and expand our lives. I teach people how to access the Akashic records, this metaphysical library that literally holds the answer to everything and anything, with your own soul, with other souls, with the universe. Like it's absolutely fascinating. And then teaching others how to heal, to do energetic healings, to do healings on themselves, on others, all of it. I just really am passionate about, taking somebody's hand and guiding them through this purpose, through the ups, the downs, the challenges, and helping them break through it. So that is my purpose here for now, as I know that always shifts and changes. But this podcast, it's just really going to be a reflection of where I am pulled to. I am so excited to have, guests on and have conversations and learn things about others. I'm so curious to learn other people's journeys, other people's modalities, what all the things. Like I just am so excited to have these conversations, and then even just a one-on-one. Like I feel like it's like one-on-one, me just talking to you on the other side there, but maybe there's a few of you. I would hope so. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe nobody wants to listen to Miss Allie ramble on like I do. But either way, I'm just gonna show up, and you know what? We'll see where this goes. And I'm excited. So thank you. Thank you for listening to this very first episode of the Gemini Brain. I am so excited to see how this evolves and unfolds, and I look forward to seeing you at the next episode.